Well, hey everybody, we've come today to Mark chapter 13, which is one of my favorite chapters in my favorite gospel. Mark is my favorite gospel. I love chapter 13 because I think it really helps us understand eschatology and end things when read in context. And in this chapter, he really describes for us what life on planet Earth has been like, is like, and will be like. Notice some of what he says about life on planet Earth. In verse 7, there are wars and rumors of wars. In verse 8, conflict between nations and natural disasters. In verse 6, there's false teachers, false religious leaders. He reiterates that in verse 22. In verse 11, he talks about how his people will be persecuted because they're followers of Jesus, and that's reiterated in verse 13. In verse 12, that families at times will even be divided over faith. Now, Jesus is not saying anywhere in here that's what's going to happen at the end. That's just life on planet Earth. It's been that way, is that way, will be that way. It's not new. And what are you and I supposed to do? Well, look at verse 13. He said, "You will be hated by all because of my name, but the one who endures to the end, he will be saved." So what are we supposed to do? Don't quit. Don't give up. Stick with the faith. Stick with Jesus. Endure. In verse 7, he talks about when you hear of wars and rumors of wars, do not be frightened. Don't live in fear. In verse 10, the gospel must first be preached to all the nations. Preach the gospel, do evangelism. In verse 11, when they arrest you and hand you over, do not worry beforehand about what you are to say. Say whatever is given to you in that hour. For it is not you who speaks, but it is the Holy Spirit. So speak up for Jesus and don't deny the faith and quit worrying about saying the perfect thing, the right thing. Just speak Jesus. That is the right thing. In verse 21, and then if anyone says to you, "Behold, here is the Christ, here's the Messiah," or "Behold, he is there," do not believe them. Don't listen to all these false teachers, these so-called new false philosophies. Stay true to the truth. And in verse 22, don't be led astray. So Jesus said life on planet Earth is going to be filled with wars and rumors of wars, all the talk we hear in the news today about this country and that country and what might happen that's bad. Famine, natural disasters and earthquakes, family conflict, persecution of God's people. It's not new. It's how life on earth is and will be. And Jesus says, don't be afraid. Just endure. Keep the faith. Keep speaking my name. Don't give up. And I want to say to us today, especially those of us who are believers in America, would we stop acting like what's going on today is the first time in history it's ever happened? Now, granted, there are some new things for us, new things for our culture, new things for our country, but they're not new on planet Earth. In fact, the very first believers in the first century experienced practically everything you and I are experiencing right now, and a lot more that was worse. And because we have such a limited, narrow view of history, we live in panic. We live in fear. Stop it. Stop it. There's so many things in our world we don't like. So many things in our culture that are bad and evil and wrong. But if that causes you to lose the faith, it says more about your faith than what's going on. Don't be frightened. Keep the faith. Keep loving Jesus. Fear always leads us astray. So stop living in fear and instead live with faith and the joy that is ours because of Jesus Christ. No matter what's going on in this wacky world, okay? Well, that's the sermon for today. I'll see you tomorrow.